you heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. Welcome to another episode of An Angel and a Unicorn comic book reviews. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me is just Jenny. She's going to be hanging out with me as I review some of the books. James will be joining me later for this week's episode, because I'm doing last week's episode now, because I'm a slacker. Because the holidays have gotten to me. Man, I've been so busy, crazy, running around, everything like that. It's insane. All the gifts, all the parties, everything, all the holiday things. I hope you are enjoying them. So, I'm going to be spoiling the books for the week. If you haven't read them, then shame on you, because it's already been a week past, and if you haven't read them, you're way behind. So, without further ado, I'm going to spoil them and enjoy. I'm going to do, the first one is going to be Dark Knight Returns, The Golden Child, written by Frank Miller, and the pencils are Rafael Grampa. So this is a continuation from the Dark Knight series that he's done. I think this is his third one that he's done. The first one was Dark Knight Storm. This is the fourth one, I think. So this is kind of like further into the future of that world, where Superman has there's Supergirl, and he has the daughter and he has the son now, and the daughter is Wonder Woman's child, I think, also, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. Don't hate me. So with this one, there's the Supergirl, and then there's the little boy, her brother, and they are kind of discussing like how humanity is like even existing, like why are they still fighting? Like it's just like they kind of just don't like, or she doesn't like society. She just thinks they're weird. Like, why are we even here? Why we shouldn't help them? Anything like that. Well, then they come along this riot where it's the former Robin, now Batwoman character, where she's got her gang and she's fighting the Joker gang, and so it's like Batman gang versus Joker gang. It's kind of a weird thing. She throws this like canister of stuff, and they kind of win the day, and the little boy's like, this is why we're kind of doing this, you know. She's trying to help, and she kind of keeps him down to earth. Then it cuts to Darkseid and the Joker talking about how, you know, the evil that they're gonna do and how they need to help each other, and it gets really confusing, because then all of a sudden the Supergirl and the boy show up and save some of the people that they had, and then the fight on Darkseid becomes this huge cloud. He's like, you're not gonna defeat me, but then he kind of does, like he does his Omega, or his anti-life Omega beams, and Supergirl uses them to the little boy distracts or knocks Darkseid off with his superpowers, like his weird vision, and then the Supergirl chases Omega Beam and makes it hit Darkseid, which supposedly kills him, but doesn't, and then it gets really super confusing. Then it goes back to the Batgirl chasing the Joker, and she chases him into an arcade, and then Darkseid comes back, and then like the little boy is like trying to stop him, and I don't know. And then Supergirl disappears, and then it goes to Batgirl again, and I don't know. Like, I got really I thought it was gonna be really good, and I was really excited, especially after looking at it, because I love the art. The art is very this weird kind of mixture of Frank Miller, Doug Mahnke, and Mackie, and like this extra something in it that's kind of got this weird look to it, but it's kind of like detailed. And I mean, I really like the art, and I like the style that they did, because they kept kind of the Frank Miller feel of the characters that they've created, and but it's given it a little bit more clarity, and it doesn't look like a child drew it. So Frank Miller has a certain style that is very angular and very dark, and a lot of shadows, and this style kind of lends itself to a little bit more of the characters being able to tell who they are. So I thought it was going to be a little bit better, but then the story got really weird, and I don't know if I'm just not smart enough to follow it, which is a whole possibility, or if like the story got really convoluted, like they're not quite sure where they're going with it, because it was like Darkseid died and then he came back and then he's dead again and he killed somebody but maybe he didn't, and then like they disappeared. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. I was on board with it and I was following along, and then all of a sudden somewhere halfway between the book, like it just goes crazy and weird and awkward. And so unfortunately I have to give this one like 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. I like Frank Miller's stuff and I've loved his other Dark Knight series, but this one is just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what happens. I hope that maybe the second book will be a little bit more clarifying, but this one obviously was not there. So I don't even know if I'll get the second issue. We'll see. I'm a completionist, so I probably will, but I don't know if it's gonna get any better or not. So let's do Lucy Clare Redemption. So this is, let me get to the front, an Image comic. It is written by John Upchurch, and art was by John Upchurch also. So he did all the stuff. He does all the things, which actually ends up really nicely. So it starts off with there's a diner, and this girl's talking to this guy, and they kind of talk about how the girl's kind of talking about like, aren't you glad all the werewolves are gone, and that the village is, or the city's safe, and that we're doing good. And he's like, she goes, now they're, I hear the hunter's gone and she's dead, and all these kind of like filling in the blanks. Well, then all of a sudden the guy she's talking to is like, yep. He goes, I'm actually glad she's dead too, because now the werewolves can take back over, because they think that the werewolves have been hunted to extinction, and he's a werewolf, so he turns into one, slaughters everybody. So the town people go and they try to find, they are trying to find this one particular lady, Lucy, and she ends up being kind of a alcoholic, kind of doesn't care about herself anymore. So she's in jail, where she's found the guy, the sheriff or the lawman, kind of helps her out. He's like, I just put you in there to get sober, so now that you're sober, somebody made your bail. And she's like, well, I don't want to leave. And he's like, you gotta leave. So she sees that it's this young kid that makes the bail, and she's like, go away. He's just like, thanks, but go away. He's like, but we need your help. Our village got attacked by werewolves. You're a werewolf hunter. You have to come help us. And she's like, I don't do that anymore. I've lost my family. You found out she's lost her family early on in the kind of like a flashback movie. And the fight, he's like, look, I bailed you out. The least you can do is come see me, or come listen to us. So she goes and she like throws up in the planter, lays down on the couch, and she's like, I don't care about any of this. And they kind of tell her that she needs to go help. She has like this dream that she needs to help, and then that she comes with this long line of werewolf hunters, and all of a sudden somebody busts in and is like, there's a werewolf attack. They're outside, and so she's like, Lucy comes out, she does her thing, kicks the crap out of all of them, all the werewolves, and she's like, I'm back. And then at the end, she's like, she kills all of them, and they're all like, dang. And she goes, yes, but did you bring in my pancakes I asked you for? And sure enough, there's pancakes on them. They put a little thing of pancakes right there, because she just did like some amazing stuff. So it's kind of fun. I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with this. Like, I don't know if there was a book before this, because it does feel like there maybe was some history, and I don't know if they are like just starting this book and they're going to continue with this history. I'd have to do some research and see if they have more of theirs of this story. But I really liked it. Like, the art was really amazing. It's kind of got the stylized, cartoony, almost arcade video game feel look to it, but it also has like this watercolor colors that make it look really dynamic, and the action sequences are really nice. The characters are all individual. I really like the dialogue was really good. So I really like this book, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go. So I give it a 4.5 out of 5 unicorn horns for this book. And I'm excited for issue 2, which is always a good thing for a book. You always want to be able to read the second issue. So let's see. The next one I'm going to do is Something is Killing the Children. I've done this one a couple times. I've done a couple issues. This is issue 4. It is by James Tynion. I think he's doing currently Justice League. And whether Werther Dell'Edera is the artist. I'm so sorry. I need phonetics. Like I need to be spelled out. So earlier, all these kids got killed. There's one kid that survived, and he is everybody thinks that he did it, or that he had something involved with it. Many kids have been gone missing, so there's all these people that are really nervous and scared about this. So when this girl shows up, they think that she has something to do with it also. So they're kind of tracking her a little bit and trying to figure it out. And she shows up at this hardware store, and she's talking to this guy about like what's the best hacksaw or a chainsaw that to use, and she's like, what's gonna work? He's like, well, this one's gonna do a really good job because, but it's electric, you got a cord. He's like, it's really good. She's like, what's the smallest portable thing that I can hack somebody up to death with? And he's like, you don't know what you need. And she's like, no, I know what I need. Trust me. And he's like, okay, then this. She's like, I also need some of those hatchets and some of this stuff. So they're buying supplies to go do some business, go take care of some stuff. Well, one of the guys that they ran into earlier issue, he goes to his house, finds out that his dad's like drunk off his butt, and while he's there, he steals a gun from him, and so they're gonna go after the girl to make sure that she's not involved in this. They have there's more investigation, and then they realize that there is, they kind of allude to this person is involved in some kind of cult or some kind of group, because they have this dragon, they show this guy with the dragon tattoo, but there's all these X's through it, and that kind of tells the sheriff that he needs to back off, let this girl do her job. She's going in there, and she's she's talking to the kid and kind of building him up, and they're gonna go in the forest, and they're gonna go in the forest and take care of these creatures. But she's like, look, you can go with me, but once I get to the cave, you're done. You need to stay out of the cave. I'm the only one going to the cave. No arguments. Kid's like, okay. So they get to the cave. She grabs all her stuff, and she's like, okay, you got to stay out of here. So she goes in, sees all the dead bodies, and then all of a sudden she hears the guy that stole the gun from his father. He's behind them, and he's like, I followed you in here. I knew you were up to something. And he sees all the dead bodies, and he pulls the gun out. She turns around, and there's this big giant creature that's standing behind the guy with the gun. And that's the end of the book. I love this book. It's really good. I'm really curious to see who these people are. I wish they would delve a little bit quicker into some of this stuff, because I'm curious to see where she came from. So I wish they would kill this monster so they could get more into her story and what she's going to be about. I'm also curious to the kid. Is he going to go team up with her? Is he going to stay with her? Is he going to learn? I like this little twist where the town is kind of, the townies are trying to get involved too. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. I really like the art. The art it's got this feel to it that is gritty and grimy and kind of gross. And she looks like she's just done with the world. And it's just really good. I really like the way they've done with this book. So I give this a 4.5 out of 5 unicorn horns. For sure, it's definitely something that I would recommend to a lot of people. And see what they think, especially if you're a Buffy fan or a horror fan or a suspense kind of thriller. These would all be really good things. I think this would be good for that. So the last one I'm going to do is The Magicians. I did number 1 a couple weeks back, and this is the second book in this series. It is written by Lev Grossman, who did the original series, and Layla Sturges, and then the art is by Pius Bach. So earlier they had one of the girls, they let head witches in to the Brakebills, which is kind of their magic school. Brakebills is kind of like the hoity-toity private school. And then hedge witches are people that learn their magic on the street, that don't have formal training. And so they've kind of learned a different kind of type of magic, and so they're letting them into the Brakebills or the school to kind of have this teaching thing. And they also find out that they're going to be doing battle magic, which I think they're kind of lining them up to be a team of like kind of warriors of some kind for something that's coming, but they haven't quite alluded to that yet. So anyway, last issue they all win. They are kind of like measuring their length of their appendages and like see who's more manly and who's better at magic. So they were all casting these weird spells, and one girl cast this fire spell, and all of a sudden it consumed her, and she died. So they're all discussing like how they're gonna cover it up, what they're gonna do, and they talk about like what will happen if they get caught. They're gonna end up getting expelled, and the hedge witches are like, we don't care if we get expelled, we don't want to be here anyways. And they're like, no, you don't understand what expelled means. Expelled means that they wipe your brain, you will never know magic existed, you will never have magic again, and it'll be gone from you, and you will have this naggy feeling for the rest of your life. So they all agree that they're going to we're gonna bury the body, we're not gonna speak about it, and then we're gonna make a pact. Some guy takes this wire and starts binding their mouth, like sewing all their mouths together, so that not only does he sew their mouth together, but their mouth is sewn to the other person's too. So it's like this giant string that goes around and kind of binds them so that they can't talk about it. So they get caught, like they can't tell on each other. And so this is a really great way for them to kind of bond together, and also bond in obviously trying not to get caught and kicked out of Brakebills. They have like a little moment, a couple of the characters have a little moment where the one girl, she really likes computers, and she's got like a algorithm that helps with magic, and she's got like a spreadsheet that helps with magic. And so one of her buddies helps with he's like, look, I have some I'm really good with electronic stuff, so he's like, so I get this so that it'll charge your computer, because electrical stuff doesn't work that well at Brakebills because of the way the magic works. So he's like, this will bypass that and let you use your computer. So she's really excited. Then they cut to two other guys. So it's one guy from the Hedge Witches and one guy from the Brakebills group, and they are trying to kind of cover up the area of magic that is they're hoping to cover everything up so that when the dean comes and the other teachers come, they won't be able to tell what happened. So they go back to class, and everybody's like, everybody's obviously shooken up from her being dead, and now they have to hold a secret. And they get into class, and the girl's alive, and they're like, of course everybody's shocked. So I'm curious to see if it's a clone, or if that was the trick, that was the magic she was using, was she burns herself up and she regrows herself, because that's kind of killer. And I'm also curious to see where they're going to go with this, because they definitely have I really like the two group dynamics. Like they have the kind of like rich kids that are kind of classically trained, and then they have like the poor kids that are kind of had to really work at it. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work out with the dynamic, the drama, obviously. So that's a lot of fun. And I'm curious to see if, when this book continues, if they're actually going to bring in old characters from the book, because this is obviously in the future after all the stuff that the magicians are currently going through. Which, by the way, if you're not watching the Magician Show, it's really, really good. And if you haven't read the books are really good too. They have some great audio tape ones, so if you get a chance, you may want to listen to those on audio tape, or read them, and also watch the show. The show's a lot of fun. But this particular comic book has none of those characters in it, except for a few. Like they have Dean Fogg, but Dean Fogg is more from the book version than he is from the TV version. So they're definitely a little bit different. They took a little bit more liberties on the TV show, which actually paid off really well. I think they did some really great things on the TV show that wasn't in the book, and furthering it, they did some really great things. So there's another recommendation. I really like the Magicians comic book, so if you're not reading that, that's a really good one. The art is not my favorite. It's definitely a little bit sketchy and rushed, really kind of scratchy looking. I wish it was a little more clear, but I do like the characters. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with them. So I gave it, another one, I gave a 4.5 out of 5 unicorn horns. So yeah, so some good books and some not so good books. Dark Knight wasn't that great, but then the other 3 were really good. So actually, last week was a really great reading week, and so yeah, if you get a chance, check them out. Tell me what you think. If you can, like, share, and subscribe. Sadly, I have sad news that I will bring up on this week's episode. But after next week, we will do book club and 1 more episode, and that will be the end of this show for a little while. I'm going back to school, and so I will not have time, unfortunately, to do the show unless I become super famous between now and then and can quit my job with all the money that I make. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going back to school in order to further my education and hopefully be able to retire and not have to worry about money. Anyways, and so I will have to give this up for a little bit, and then hopefully we'll bring it back at some point when I have a little bit more control over my time. But until then, thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, because we'd still love to get our numbers up. We'd still love to have enough views. But until then, we hope your pull list is full. Bye.